Hello everyone, I am Mrs. Ashwini Oak, a physics teacher from Ferguson College, Pune. I am going to discuss with you all chapter number 7 of your physics syllabus, Wave Optics. The details of the chapter we are going to see with the help of PowerPoint presentation. Chapter number 7, Wave Optics. The subtopics which we are going to discuss in the chapter are Introduction to Wave Optics, Nature of Light, Light as a Wave, Huygens Theory, Reflection of Light at a Plane Surface, Interference of Light, and Diffraction of Light. Now, before going to wave optics, let us start with a branch of physics which deals with the science of light, which is called as optics. Various phenomena concerning light can be split into ray optics and particle nature of light. Now, what is ray optics? You have studied ray optics in standard 11. It is a branch of optics which uses ray nature of light to study various optical phenomena. And what is a ray? Light travels in a straight line while traveling through uniform and homogeneous medium. This straight line path of light is called as a ray of light. In ray optics, we have already learnt the phenomena such as reflection and refraction of light, total internal reflection, reflection of light by spherical mirrors, and refraction of light through prisms and lenses. Now let us revise reflection and refraction of light, which you have already studied in standard 11. First, we will see reflection of light. Now, when the ray of light is incident on the plane reflecting surface, such as mirror, it bounces back into the same medium, and that is called as reflection of light. The ray which is bouncing back into the medium is called as reflected ray. If we draw normal to the plane reflecting surface at the point of incidence, then the angle between the incident ray and the normal is called as angle of incidence I. The angle between the reflected ray and the normal is called as angle of reflection R. We have studied the laws of reflection as the incident ray, the reflected ray, and the normal at the point of incidence lie in the same plane. The incident ray and the reflected ray lie on opposite sides of normal, and angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection, so I is equal to R. Let us see refraction of light. When the ray of light is incident on the boundary between two media, the path of light changes in the second medium. This is called as refraction of light. If we draw normal at the point of incidence to the boundary between two media, then the angle between the incident ray and the normal is called as angle of incidence I. Angle between the refracted ray and the normal is called as angle of refraction R. We have studied the laws as the incident ray, the refracted ray, and the normal at the point of incidence lie in the same plane. The incident ray and the refracted ray lie on opposite sides of normal. If N1 is the refractive index of medium 1, N2 is the refractive index of medium 2, then ratio of sine of angle of incidence to the sine of angle of refraction is equal to ratio of refractive index of medium 2 to the refractive index of medium 1. So we can write sin I upon sin R is equal to N2 upon N1. So N1 sin I is equal to N2 sin R. This is also called as Snell's law. Now let us start our today's chapter, wave optics. So what is wave optics? The branch of optics which uses wave nature of light to explain the optical phenomena is called wave optics. Now before going to wave nature of light, let us understand different nature of light. The first is corpuscular nature. Sir Isaac Newton developed the theory to propose the particle nature of light, which is known as Newton's corpuscular theory of light. According to Newton's corpuscular theory, light is made up of large number of extremely small particles, and these particles are called as corpuscles. Corpuscles are hard, elastic and massless. They travel in straight line in the absence of external force. Now with the help of this Newton's corpuscular theory, Newton could explain the phenomena such as reflection of light, refraction of light and rectilinear propagation of light. But Newton predicted that the speed of light in denser medium is greater than that in rarer medium, and this contradicts the experimental observations. So this was the drawback of the theory. Also, Newton's theory could not explain the phenomena such as interference of light, diffraction of light and polarization of light. And because of these drawbacks, Newton's corpuscular theory was abandoned. The another nature of light is wave nature. As corpuscular theory was abandoned, later in 1678, Dutch physicist Christian Huygens gave his theory, which is known as Huygens wave theory of light. He assumed that light is propagated in the form of a wave, and this light wave is caused by the vibrations of particles of the medium. For the propagation of light waves, Huygens assumed a hypothetical medium called ether, which is present everywhere, including all material media as well as vacuum. With the help of this theory, Huygens could explain reflection of light, refraction of light, interference of light, diffraction of light. But the main drawback of theory was he assumed that for the propagation of wave, the medium ether is present everywhere. There was no evidence to prove the existence of ether, and later on, from Maxwell's electromagnetic theory and experiments performed by Michelson and Morley, it was proved that ether does not exist. But this was the only drawback of the theory, as Huygens could explain the modern phenomena at that time, such as interference of light, diffraction of light. This theory was considered to be the correct theory of light, and we have to study Huygens wave theory in detail in this chapter. The third nature of light is dual nature of light. In early 20th century, it was accepted that light has a dual nature, particle as well as wave nature, and they are exhibited under different situations. These particles of light are called as photons. The detailed part of this dual nature you are going to study in chapter number 14, Dual Nature of Radiation and Matter. Now let us understand how the light is propagated as a wave. Light is an electromagnetic wave, and light waves are transverse waves. They are transverse in nature. They are propagated in the form of crest and troughs. They consist of tiny oscillating electric and magnetic fields which are perpendicular to each other, and also they are perpendicular to the direction of propagation of wave. Here in the animation, you can see that the wave is propagating along x-axis, the electric field is vibrating along y-axis, and the magnetic field is vibrating along z-axis. So electric field vector and magnetic field vector are perpendicular to each other, and also they are perpendicular to the direction of propagation of wave. These light waves do not require material medium for the propagation, and they can travel through vacuum. Now, if we consider that the light wave is propagating through a medium, if v is the speed of light in that given medium, n is the refractive index of the medium, then n can be written as equal to c upon v, where c is the speed of light in vacuum. The value of refractive index of vacuum is equal to 1, and for air, the refractive index is approximately equal to 1, but for all practical purposes, we take n is equal to 1 for air. Electromagnetic waves can have the wavelengths from very small values to very large values, and therefore they are classified as gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet rays, visible light, infrared rays, microwaves, and radio waves. These waves are in the increasing order of wavelengths. Now, when we see visible light comprises of wavelengths from 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. These wavelengths are perceived by human eyes as different colors, with violet color having shortest wavelength and the red color having the largest wavelength. White color comprises of the different wavelengths, and the refractive index of the medium depends upon the wavelength of light used. Now let us discuss Huygens theory in detail. Several sources of light around us are classified into primary and secondary sources of light. Primary sources are the sources which emit light of their own, but they emit light because of their high temperatures, or because of the effect of current, or because of chemical or nuclear reactions which take place in them. The primary sources which emit light because of their high temperatures are the sun, the stars, the flame of any kind, or the objects which are heated to high temperatures. They emit light because of their high temperatures. The primary sources which emit light because of the effect of current are tube light, TV, etc. When tube light or TV is switched on, the current flows through them, and because of this flow of current, they emit light. Primary sources which emit light because of chemical or nuclear reactions are firecrackers, nuclear energy generators. When firecrackers are burnt, chemical reactions takes place, and because of which they emit light. In nuclear energy generators, nuclear reactions take place and they emit light. So light originates in these sources. The second type are the secondary sources. They do not produce light of their own, but receive light from some other source, or they receive light from the primary sources. For example, the moon, the planets, the objects around us, or for that matter, the plants, animals, humans, we all are secondary sources because we do not produce light of our own. We reflect the light that we receive from primary sources. In Huygens wave theory, Huygens introduced the concept of wavefront. So let us understand wavefront with the help of example. Consider an example where the stone is dropped in the still pool of water. When the stone is dropped in still pool of water, the disturbance is created in the water medium. When the disturbance is created in the water medium, the ripples are formed on the water surface, and these ripples are in the form of concentric circular rings. These ripples spread outward in all directions around the source of disturbance, and they travel in all directions. When these ripples reach certain point of the medium, the particle at that point start oscillating up and down. The different particles which are at same distance away from the source, they oscillate in the same phase. That is, at these points which are at same distance from the source, the waves from the source receive simultaneously, or the wave from the source reach simultaneously, and hence these points vibrate in same phase, or they have same state of oscillations. The locus of all such points where the waves from the source of disturbance reach simultaneously, and therefore these points vibrate in same phase, is called as wavefront. So, the locus of all points having the same phase of oscillation at a given instant of time is called a wavefront. So, if we take one wavefront, all the particles on one wavefront are oscillating with the same phase because the waves from the source of disturbance reach this point simultaneously. The energy always propagates perpendicular to the wavefront. So, if we draw outward normals, they represent the direction of propagation of wave. The direction of propagation of wave is perpendicular to the wavefronts, that is along the radii of the circle. So, these outward normals which are drawn here, they represent the direction of propagation of wave, or we can say they represent the direction of propagation of energy, and they are always perpendicular to the wavefront. These wavefront move with the speed which is the speed of the wave in that given medium. Now, the wavefronts which are formed on the water surface, they travel in two dimensions, and therefore these wavefronts are called as circular wavefronts. But in case of source of sound or source of light, the waves travel in all directions and propagate in three dimensions, and therefore we have to understand what is a spherical wavefront. So consider the source of light, which is a burning candle here. It emits light waves which travel in all directions, and they propagate in three dimensions. When these light waves reach certain point of the medium, the particle at that point start oscillating. All the particles which are at same distance, they oscillate in phase, and therefore we get the locus of all such points where the waves from the source reach simultaneously, and therefore all the points vibrate in same phase, which is called as a wavefront. But as these waves which are traveling through medium, they travel in all directions and they propagate in three dimensions, the wavefront which is emitted by this burning candle is called as a spherical wavefront. Spherical wavefront is drawn by taking the source of light as a center. So here we have drawn different spheres around the source of light which represent different spherical wavefronts. The light waves produced by a light source travel in all directions away from the source, and they propagate in three dimensions. Such a wave is called as a spherical wave. If we draw the normals or perpendicular to the surface of wavefronts, they show the direction of propagation of energy, or here they show the direction of propagation of light. The arrows are perpendicular to spherical surfaces and they show the direction of propagation of light. These arrows which are drawn are called as the rays of light. Now, if you see these rays are diverging from the source of light, and therefore spherical wavefronts correspond to diverging beam of light. Here the example is a burning candle. The candle which is burning and which is nearby us emits the light in the form of spherical wavefront. Or if we make a pinhole on a cardboard and if it is illuminated with the help of lamp, it emits the wave in the form of spherical wavefront. Now, if this spherical wavefront has traveled a very large distance away from the source, then the part of the spherical wavefront appears to be a plane surface, and in such a case the wave is called as plane wave, or the wavefront is called as plane wavefront. So if we consider a source of light which is very far or at infinite distance, then it emits spherical wavefront, and that spherical wavefront travels a very large distance away from the source. So the part of spherical wavefront appears to be a plane surface, and which is called as a plane wavefront. The perpendiculars which are drawn to the wavefronts, they show the direction of propagation of light. So here the arrows which are drawn show the direction of propagation of light, and these arrows are called as the rays of light. So from here we can understand that the wavefronts and the rays of light are always perpendicular to each other. You can see that these rays are parallel to each other, and therefore plane wavefronts correspond to a parallel beam of light. The sunlight which reaches us is in the form of a plane wavefront because the sun is at very large distance from us, so the spherical wavefront has traveled a very large distance when it reaches us, and therefore it is in the form of a plane wavefront. If the source of light is linear, then the wavefront emitted by that source is cylindrical wavefront. If this is the source of light, it is linear, so every point of this linear source emit the light waves in all directions, and the wavefront is in the form of a cylinder, so it is called as cylindrical wavefront. The light emitted by tube light is in the form of cylindrical wavefront because tube light is a linear source of light, or any slit which is made on the cardboard and illuminated with the help of lamp, it emits the light in the form of cylindrical wavefront. Now in Huygens theory, Huygens gave the principle which helps us to determine the shape of the wavefront at any later instant if the shape of the wavefront at earlier instant is known to us, and this principle is known as Huygens principle. So let us see the statement of Huygens principle first. Each point on a wavefront acts as a secondary source of light, emitting secondary light waves called wavelets in all directions, which travel with the speed of light in the medium. The new wavefront can be obtained by taking the envelope of these secondary wavelets traveling in the forward direction and is thus the envelope of all secondary wavelets in forward direction. The wavelets traveling in the backward direction are ineffective. Now let us understand this principle with the help of a diagram. We consider the point source of light which is emitting light waves in the given medium. As it is the point source, it emits the spherical wavefronts. So we are considering one such spherical wavefront AB, which is also called as primary wavefront. It is the wavefront emitted by the primary source. So it is the primary wavefront AB. Now, according to Huygens principle, every point on this wavefront AB acts as the secondary source of light. So the points which are shown here, they are acting as the secondary sources of light, and they emit light waves in all directions in the given medium. If the speed of the light in the given medium is v, then all these waves emitted by the sources, they will travel with the same speed equal to v. These waves are the spherical waves or spherical wavefronts because they are emitted by point sources, and these waves are called as secondary wavelets. Now, in time t, all these secondary wavelets will cover a distance equal to speed into time, that is v into t in the given medium. So, the radius of all these secondary wavelets is equal to vt at time t. If we draw the envelope which covers all these secondary wavelets, or the tangent drawn to all these secondary wavelets, gives us a new wavefront at time t. So A dash B dash is the new wavefront at time t, which encloses all the secondary wavelets. So A dash B dash is the new wavefront, AB was the old wavefront, and by using Huygens principle, we can find out the position of new wavefront A dash B dash after time t. So this is how the principle can be explained. In this lecture, we have started wave optics and we have studied the nature of light, Huygens theory in detail, Huygens principle. You revise these topics, we will meet in our next lecture. Thank you.